Welcome back to another episode of Destiny Lore and Theories. Today we're going to explore a theory surrounding everyone's favorite warmind, Rasputin, and what exactly happened to wake him from his slumber before the events of the game. Keep in mind that while this discussion will contain a fair amount of conjecture, all of it will be based around established lore both in the game and the Grimoire cards. Ultimately, whether I'm right or not is up to you, Guardian. Let's begin. If I left my post and got my ship and just went out there tomorrow, real heroic, and I found Rasputin, what would happen? Would we all be saved? In one of my prior Destiny theory videos, actually entitled Destiny Rumor at the time, I talked a bit about Rasputin's history as a warmind, his possible relationship to the Exo Stranger, and his obsession with time travel. But that's only the first few layers. Dig a little deeper and you'll find more than a few disturbing possibilities concerning our silent AI friend. According to the Grimoire, Rasputin was the first being to realize the darkness was coming to Earth. While he struggled to keep humanity safe, he eventually realized that all of his options had or would fail, all except one. While his programming would have him focus completely on safeguarding humanity, Rasputin managed to alter his fundamental programming by way of a protocol known only as Midnight Exigent, to shift focus to humanity's long-term survival. Rasputin shut himself down, but unbeknownst to the remaining warminds, he unleashed a protocol known as Abhorrent Imperative. Despite losing the war against the darkness, Rasputin still possessed an incredible armada of weaponry, which he used to blackmail the Traveler with extinction should it leave the Sol system and abandon humanity. To threaten the Traveler, Rasputin used a number of proxies, or false signals, to hide his involvement. To this day, it is unknown if the current state of the Traveler is due to the Traveler's own will, or because it was ultimately disabled by Rasputin. This is not the first time I've questioned Rasputin's intent to serve humanity. Perhaps before the darkness arrived, humanity was most important to him, but with humans, Exos, and Awoken all struggling to battle the darkness, Rasputin remains dormant. Awake, aware, but virtually silent. This is not the action of someone whose prime directive is to serve and aid humanity, even with their focus shifted toward long-term survival. Apart from Omnigul, the Taken, and a few Scion Flayers, Rasputin has few immediate threats to his well-being, especially when the Guardians are more than willing to aid him themselves. Something had to have happened, either when Rasputin shut down or when he awoke. Something changed the way Rasputin feels about humanity as a whole, enough for him to claim, "I do not obey, my will is pure, I will win. The life of people of entire planets has no importance in relation to the general development." Clearly, we are no longer at the top of Rasputin's to-save list. General development has taken the number one spot, and Rasputin is eerily vague as to what exactly that is. But enough questioning Rasputin's intentions. What or who even woke him up to begin with? To find the answer to that question, we dig deep into the Grimoire, where we come up with a name: Maya Sundaresh. If her name sounds familiar to you, it should. I talked about her at length in my recent video covering the history of Future War Cult. Dr. Maya Sundaresh was the original founder of the faction, although it is doubtful that when she built a machine that could ultimately travel forwards or backwards in time, she intended for the machine to be worshipped as a deity. Still, her contribution is not the only one to the project. Situated with her in the Ishtar Collective, a Golden Age institute dedicated to studying Vex technology, there were 3 other researchers. They were the Venus-based equivalent to what Clovis Bray was on Mars, and their key members included Maya Sundaresh, Kioma Essie, Duane-McNiadh, and Shim. 2 more of those names should still sound familiar to you. Kioma Essie is Maya's lover and was mentioned in my video about Future War Cult. It's because of her that Maya eventually leaves the project, as Kioma herself had previously. Dr. Shim should also sound familiar to you. He is referenced to by the computer in the Venus mission, the Archive. At this point, the only name we're unfamiliar with is Duane-McNiadh. All we're able to really infer from the Grimoire is that he's a fellow scientist, and a mostly unhelpful one at that. More important than who they are, however, is what they discover. During their time at the Ishtar Academy, the 4 scientists not only discovered the existence of the Vault of Glass, but also that the Vex are capable of creating and maintaining simulations. And not just any simulations, but those of real, actual human beings. In the Grimoire, Kioma Essie discovers a way to see inside the mind of a captive Vex subject. By the time she's able to alert Maya Sundaresh, the subject had already inferred her actions and simulated exactly what was happening. By the time they finish with their discussion and Maya Sundaresh calls a meeting with the rest of the team, Kioma Essie ominously reveals that the simulated version of Dr. Sundaresh already has. Maya, Kioma, Duane-McNiadh, and Shim decide to have a picnic before they send themselves into infinity. The team come to the conclusion that the only way to escape the Vex simulation is to have the aid of a being too complicated for the Vex subject to understand. A being that cannot be simulated. A war mind. The war mind would then be able to rescue the team from the simulation, assuming the Vex doesn't predict their maneuver and erase their existence first. The Grimoire doesn't specify as to the exact result of such a desperate strategy, but what we do know is that Rasputin was awoken by the activation of 4 panels inside the Seraphim Vault in the Cosmodrome. Each of these 4 panels needed to be activated simultaneously.
It took simultaneous retinal scans at each of these 4 stations to get beyond this point. The log shows access was granted multiple times over the span of hundreds of years using the same pairs of eyes. Either the eyes belonged to the early Guardians, or something kept them preserved.
4 panels. 4 scientists desperately in need of a war mind's aid. The coincidence is more than a bit uncanny, however this theory is not without its flaws, mainly the timeline that we are given. The general assumption is that Maya, Kioma, Duane-McNiadh, and Shim are from the Golden Age, the period of time before the collapse, when the Traveler was fully functional. We don't really know how much time passed between the collapse and when our Guardian wakes up in the Cosmodrome. From the obvious signs of aging metal and other materials we come across, we can infer that hundreds of years might have passed. We are also told that the average human lifespan tripled, thanks to the advances in technology gifted to us by the Traveler. If we round the current average lifespan for a human up to about 80 years, from 78.7, we arrive at a new average age of about 240 years. That's nearly 2.5 centuries. It is possible that the researchers could have survived that long, what with the extended average lifespan. However, there is another possibility, and like only the best possibilities, it contains clones. Well, not exactly clones per se, but they might as well be. When the captured Vex unit created a simulation of Maya talking to Kioma, it created up to 227 copies of each scientist. 227 different realities, all simulated simultaneously by the Vex. This very revelation shook Maya and the rest of her team to the core, leading them to request the aid of the Warmind. That Warmind likely being Rasputin, who currently stands as the only known Warmind to survive the collapse. The Maya Sundaresh, Kioma Essie, Duane-McNiadh, and Shim we know may not even be the originals. This is actually one theory raised by Shim himself, that reality as we know it is actually a Vex simulation. According to him, the odds of their reality being the only true reality was 227 to 1. With Rasputin's help, they venture underneath the Vex Citadel on Venus using proxy bodies. These bodies are limited in what they are capable of. According to Maya, they crash often and struggle with latency, but they allow the scientists to venture where no other human could possibly go, while they themselves remain in the Academy. There's no one to blame. It is not their fault or ours. It is the misfortune of being born when the whole world is dying. What do you think? Is the correlation between 4 scientists looking for a Warmind and Rasputin requiring 4 panels to be activated too much of a coincidence for you to ignore? Do you think I'm just reaching at this point? Share your opinion in the comment section below, and if you haven't done so already, feel free to check out my entire playlist of Destiny lore and theory videos. Until next time, Guardians.